What is going on, everyone? This is Faithful, and I'm making a quick response video to Tahar of GMS. Apparently, he made a video criticizing the video that we did yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. With the brother Kadash, and his response was Isaiah 14:1-3 did not take place yet. He took a portion of the video where I said that they're getting Amos 9:11-12 and Isaiah 14:1-3 wrong, because Isaiah 14:1-3 took place. And as far as Amos 9:11-12, well, as Tahar well knows, he made a video claiming that James went off because the reading that James was using in Acts 15 verses 13-17 differed completely, I guess, in certain parts in the wording from the wording that appears in the King James reading of the same text. Not realizing that James was reading the Septuagint. I don't even think he realizes that the King James rendering of Amos 9:11-12 is also based on Bomberg's 1525 edition of the Masoretic text. But it's neither here nor there. I'm just going to go ahead and address Isaiah 14:1-3. So first things first, right? In the video, he makes this assertion that, I don't know what I'm talking about, because apparently in order for them to return from the Babylonian captivity in that verse, it had to be the Babylonians bringing them back. However, I don't think he realizes, or maybe he does, and he's just being willingly ignorant, that the Persians took over the Babylonian Empire, just as the Babylonians had taken over the Assyrian Empire. If one looks at Isaiah 13, chapter 13, they're going to realize that context is key. See, the context of Isaiah 14 can be found in Isaiah 13. Clearly, as we can see right now, right here, I'm going to go ahead and read this. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. I'm going to repeat that again. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. Let's go down here. Let's look at 17-19. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. And Babylon, the glory of the kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. This is not talking about America, Tahar. This is talking about the literal Babylonian kingdom. How do we know this for a fact? Very simple. Let's look at Daniel chapter 5. Remember when he sees the writing Mene, Tekel, Peres, and he tells him, Peres is thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Look at 30. In that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain, and Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. Now, we can also look at Daniel chapter 6, to drive this home more, but I'm going to go ahead and speed through this because this is very easy. Again, so we looked at Isaiah 13, right? And now we realize that this is talking about the Babylonians being overthrown by the Medes and Persians. Now, when we look over here at Isaiah 14, this is the one that they love to use, where it says, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined, with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. Now, I want you to remember that servants and handmaids. We're about to find out in a moment where we see that in scripture. And they shall take them captives whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Now, I know Tahar did call that I would use Isaiah 14, verse 4, where it says, "Thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased." But the thing is, he also forgets Isaiah 14:22. "For I will rise up against them, saith the Lord of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant and son and nephew, save the Lord." Now, yes, we do realize that if we look at, for example, verse 12, it says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations?" Now, the thing about that is, we know that the king of Babylon was being deceived by the enemy, led by the enemy, the same way that we see in Ezekiel 28, the king of Tyre being deceived by the enemy, or less Tahar wants to assume that this is talking about, or I should say that even that is talking about the king of Tyre being a cherub, which I don't think he's gonna say, right? Unless he's just very, ignorant. As we can see, this is talking about the king of Babylon. All right. Very clear that this is talking about the literal king of Babylon, not America in the future, but literally Babylon. How do we know this? Well, let's check out Ezra chapter 2. "Now these are the children of the province that went out of the captivity of those who had been carried away, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away unto Babylon, and came again unto Jerusalem and Judah, everyone unto his city." Now, before I keep reading this is happening with the Persians. Now, we know that Cyrus was chosen by the Lord, because I know that in Isaiah, it also talks about Cyrus being his anointed, who was chosen for the task of bringing these people back. Now, ironically enough, Nebuchadnezzar was also called the Lord's servant, and he was also pitted with the task of taking them into captivity. So here we see another Gentile king being chosen to bring these people back from the captivity, just as this Gentile king Nebuchadnezzar was chosen to take them into captivity. So what we see right here is very significant. Now look what it says right here. "Which came with Zerubbabel, Jeshua, Nehemiah, Sariah, Reliah, Mordecai, Bilshan, Misphar, Bigva, Rehum, Banah, the number of the men of the people of Israel." I'm going to repeat that again. The number of the men of the people of Israel. And here we see all these people being listed. But let's go down to 64 for a moment. Look at what verse 64 through 70 says. "The whole congregation together was 42,303 score. Beside their servants and their maids." I'm going to repeat that again. Beside their servants and their maids. Now, what does Isaiah 14, verse 2 say? "For servants and handmaids." Now, keep in mind that these people are coming back from the captivity with servants and handmaids. Now, I'm going to repeat that one more time for emphasis. "Beside their servants and their maids, of whom there were 7,337, and there were among them 200 singing men and singing women. Their horses were 736, their mules 245. Now, I'm not going to read all this. I could read it, but I'm just going to go down to the relevant portion. This is 70. "So the priests and the Levites and some of the people and the singers and the porters and the Nethinims dwelt in their cities, and all Israel in their cities." All Israel in their cities. Let's take a look at Esther chapter 8. After the time that the Persians had taken over the Babylonian kingdom. Now, keep in mind that Persia didn't just conquer Babylon, they conquered other nations as well. They were a pretty substantial empire. Now, look what it says right here. This is Esther 8:17. And in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day. And many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. I'm going to say that one more time. And many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. Now, if you look up here at 13, which I don't have highlighted, but I'll read. It says, the copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, and that the Jews should be ready against that day to avenge themselves on their enemies. I'll repeat that again. And that the Jews should be ready against that day to avenge themselves on their enemies. That sounds eerily similar to them, where it says, they shall take them captives whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Now, keep in mind that there were Babylonians in the Persian Empire, and there were other people. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read, Luke chapter 2, because apparently he says, well, where do we see in scripture the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom? And, well, apparently he doesn't seem to be all that familiar with the fact that you had people from the northern kingdom within the southern kingdom who had returned with these people over time. Now, look what it says right here. This is Luke chapter 2, verse 36. And there was one Anna, a prophetess, the daughter of Phanuel of the tribe of Asher. Now, Asher is how one says Asher in Greek. This right here, says it all. So clearly we see this is the correct breakdown. I should say, if we go back here, of Isaiah 14, 1 through 3. It did take place during that period. It was their return from the Babylonian captivity. This is not talking about America as these guys would like others to believe. And it is what it is. And if Tahar, if you want me to go more in depth, I have no problem doing that. I hope you will stop using that bad argument that you're essentially parroting from One West. I would hope that you would stop using that, because it's very much debunkable. And with that being said, for my Christian brothers and sisters who watch this, I hope this has served as a good example of how one refutes, i.e. debunks bad Hebrew Israelite arguments. And I hope this has edified someone out there, and take care.